All right. So if you are here to learn about the 5 things that your boutique fitness or physical therapy business needs to be doing in 2022 to achieve 6 figures or beyond, you are in the right place. If you thought we were going to talk about something else, that is unfortunate, but that is not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about this today. And I think especially now coming out of the last 2 years, there's some very, very, very specific things I think businesses need to be doing. And I think it's also a lot of the stuff that kind of gets pushed to the back burner a little bit, or kind of gets skipped over a lot, and that it ends up causing backtracking. And if I've learned anything from business, it's that it's much harder to undo, whether it be bad habits or poor systems, than it is to kind of just do the front work and get the legwork done ahead of time. So we have a variety of people. We have physical therapists in here, we have Pilates instructors, yoga instructors, combinations of all of the above. But one thing I would tell you is the 6 figures is not that, it's not that unachievable. 6 figures is only $274 a day. That's it. So if you want to take out weekends, like, I don't know about you, but I don't want to work 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, but that's only $378 a day. And if you want to give yourself a 2-week vacation, which I highly, highly recommend, that's $400 a day. That's it. $400 a day will get you to surpass 6 figures. So I think when we break down that number a little bit, it is a lot easier to conceptualize, like, how can I get there? How can I get to 6 figures? $400 a day is seeing four clients or teaching 4 classes that generate $100. So if you have 4 people in a class, each person's paying $25. If you are a solopreneur and you treat one-on-one, a private session costs $100, right? So it's really based on what all of you do. It's not super far-fetched. Okay. And why is this not doing it? Here we go. There we go. Okay. So basically I want people to start thinking about is, what does 6 figures mean to you? Because I think it's really important that we understand and really kind of can lean into what the meaning is and why 6 figures is important to us, right? People say to me all the time, I want to hit the 7-figure mark. And I ask them I'm like, what is it about 7 figures? What really is it about 7 figures that you think is going to happen when you get there? And it's no different for 6 figures, right? It's whether it's 100,000, 250,000, 500,000, right? Your purpose has to be stronger than your paycheck. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not here to make money. I think as women, it's really hard for us to talk, especially when we're in the industry that we're in, which is health and wellness. I think it's really hard for us to speak about profits. And we're going to get into this a little bit when we talk about pricing. But it comes from, I don't know, I'm not going to project onto all of you, but I think as women, it's really, we feel badly that we're making a profit over doing something that people need. But the truth of the matter is, people also want it. We're providing a service that is allowing them to do all of the things that they want. So, but our purpose does have to be stronger than our paycheck, meaning maybe it's that you want to be able to send your kids to college. Maybe it's that you want to provide for your parents who are aging and you want to be able to pay their bills for them. Maybe it's that you want to write off all your credit card debt or student loan debt. I mean, I'm still paying my student loans. I've been out of school over 20 years. So maybe you want to buy your dream house. Maybe you want to pay for private school for your kid, whatever that is. Like, there's a reason for that. And I think it's important to understand, what does it mean to you? Because one thing I will tell you 100% without a doubt, getting to 6 figures is not going to change how you feel. So if you think that getting to 6 figures or high 6 figures or 7 figures is going to make you feel more worthy, I am here to tell you that that will not happen. It 100% won't happen. So we move on to why is it important to you, and who do you have to become before you get to that mark, right? So if you think, well, if I hit 6 figures, that's going to mean that I've made it, right? I'm something now. You have to feel that before this, right? You have to feel that inherently. And people don't come out of the box like this, right? It's something that we have to work on. And it's something we are going to talk about when we talk about pricing. And it's definitely not something that you're going to like figure out in a 45-minute training. But at least if you're like, something resonates with you and you're like, oh yeah, that's me. You know what? I do think about it that way, and maybe can even start thinking about things, talking to yourself in a different way, then that's a benefit. So, okay. So now we're going to get to the 5 things that we need to be doing in 2022 to make sure that you stay on track to hit your 6-figure goal. Okay, decide what it is that you stand for. Why did you start your business, and what do you expect to get out of it? So this goes back to kind of what we were just talking about in why is that number important to you? What does it actually mean? It could mean, I've shared the story, like I was raised by a single mom. My mom came to this country from Cuba when she was a teenager, and she didn't speak the language. She didn't go to college. So a lot of, for me, when I came out of physical therapy school was, being a business owner it was almost like a feeling of I did better for my mom. Like she worked so hard to come here that I did better for her. Like, what is it that why did you start your business, right? And what is it going to provide you? For me, one of the other things that provided me is that, when my parents got divorced, my mom had 3 kids on her own without a college education. So, she did whatever she could do to have a job. And she had actually a really good job. She was actually a surgical director of surgical operations at a big prominent eye hospital here in Miami. She was an office manager for an eye doctor for a long period of time. So she had good jobs, but it was always that feeling of like, if she lost her job, how could she compete in the market to get a new job as she's getting older and there's people coming out? So one of the things for me that I saw when I was growing up was this idea that it could be like ripped out from under you at any moment. And I remember saying, I do not want to live like that, right? I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. So for me, getting out of physical therapy school and starting my business, not my business, but at least a career profession that said, I will be able to be financially solvent no matter what happens, whether I'm married or divorced, or I can be on my own, I can be financially independent. So that was really, really important to me. And then the reason that I started even doing this in business coaching, I only work with female entrepreneurs. I only work with women because I want to be an example of like what's possible for women, that they can grow businesses that are successful, that are sustainable, that maybe even allow their partners to stop working, maybe, send your kids to college, employ people, whatever it is that your goal, raise children. It can be possible. I don't have an MBA. I don't have investor money. I'm just literally like every single person on this call. So for me, that's why I started doing this, because if I can even help, if I help one person, that they help one person, that they help one person, then it's like, paying it forward. So I think it's really, really important for us to understand, like, what is it above helping people? Like helping people is just kind of like a big umbrella, but what is it about that really, really makes you passionate? And what do you expect to get out of it? I do expect to get a paycheck out of it. There's nothing wrong with saying paycheck. Okay. I expect in my business that I take home 6 figures. That is my expectation. All right. So, and my expectation is also that other people are able to make a good living in my business. So that might not be everyone's expectation, but to me, my expectation is that I get to do what I love. I get to have a schedule that I want, and I get to take home a six-figure salary, right? I think I can't remember who I was speaking to about this the other day, but you can choose, like if you want to take home $250,000 a year, you could do that if you worked 40 hours a week in your business. Meaning if you saw 40 patients a week or 40 clients or taught 40 classes, you could probably earn $200,000 in revenue. For me, that's not what I want. I'm happy with my six-figure salary. I'm very transparent to everyone. I bring home my salary a year is $120,000. And I get to do what I love to do. I get to work from home. I'm in the clinic one day a week. So I see patients on Tuesdays. And of course I cover and I fill out, but that for me is what I want. Now that didn't happen on day one. Okay. So the other thing that I want you guys to understand is you can change your mind. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to say, I will start out like being a solopreneur and I want to work 20 hours a week and that's all I want. And then later on to say, I want something else. I kind of equate it, we're all women here. So I kind of equate it to women. I was one of these, well, I actually wasn't one of these women, but one of my friends she wanted to have a natural childbirth. She wanted to have like no epidural, no anything. And she got into the hospital and she was in so much pain. She was like, I need the epidural. Like I was opposite. I was like, I knew I was having a 10-pound baby. I was like, give me the shot as I'm checking in, please now. So you can change your mind. It's okay to change your mind. Nothing is set in stone. All right. I took this from Hamilton and I'm a huge Hamilton fan, right? But if you stand for nothing, then what will you fall for? And this I see in business all the time. If we stand for nothing, meaning if we don't have like a purpose, if we don't have what it is specifically we're going after, all these shiny objects come in our way and they detract us from our ultimate goal. And it doesn't mean you can't get back on track, but if your goal to success, which by the way, it is anyways, is like a windy road, if you take a really big detour, it'll just take you that much longer to get back on track. All right. So for me, I'm not about the scenic route. I like to kind of the straightest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Okay. So here's the activity that we're going to do. And I'm going to stop sharing just for a quick second. If you can, and we can even post in the chat if you want to. Okay. So one of the things we're going to do is you can write it in your little notebook. And if anyone is comfortable sharing, you can like raise your hand or unmute yourself and say that you're comfortable sharing. And if you're not, that's okay. I'm not one of these people that makes people share. What does six figures mean for you? And if it's not 100,000, maybe it's 250,000 or 300,000, that's great. But write down what it means to you. And it's okay to say, I think I'll be successful if I hit six figures, or maybe it's, I'll be able to quit my other job. I don't know how many of you are actually doing this as a side hustle right now. Maybe it's, I'll be able to pay off my student loans, or I won't worry about I won't have to be on a budget when I go to the grocery store. Some people are, I love that I don't have to really look at the prices at the grocery store. I can go to Whole Foods and put whatever I want in my cart. I am a little surprised sometimes when I get to the checkout that 10 things cost $300. But so what does six figures mean for you? And then here's the tough part. I want you to write down a number of what it is that you want to earn. What do you want to earn? And earn means take home. So like, what do you want to earn as a female business owner? And I would say, what do you want to earn in the year 2022? And then what would you like to earn as your ultimate goal? Maybe your ultimate goal is $200,000 a year you want to take home. Maybe it's $250,000 a year. Maybe it's $75,000 a year. But write the number down and remember that we don't have to stick to this number forever. We can change our mind. we can say, you know what, I really did think that I wanted to make $250,000, but now I realize that that's not really what I want. Like for me, for example, my goal is to get to like 150. And I can tell you that at the time of this training, I don't want to work harder than what I anticipate it's going to be to get to that number at this moment in time. Now, my kids are about to go to college, like maybe in 3 years, I might change my mind and say, you know what, I do have more bandwidth to do it. Maybe I want to do something else, right? But at this moment in time, I do not want to do more of the work that is required of me to get past that. So I love that Sarah said, I will be able to buy a house and have a baby that I can give a quality life to and make my own schedule. Time to be a mom. Good. Excellent. These are very true things. Now, I also will tell you this. Entrepreneurs are the only people that will leave a 40-hour-a-week job to work 80 hours a week just so they don't have to work for somebody else. How many of you that, and you don't have to turn your cameras on if you're not, but if you started a business and you thought that you were going to have more time off, but then you feel like you're actually doing more work than you did in your last job. I mean, that was me for like 10 years. So, but it doesn't have to be like that. It just means that we're in a learning phase. Okay. And the important thing about that, thank you for sharing that, Sarah. That was perfect. The important thing just to learn about that is sometimes, I mean, and I know some of you are early business owners. I know some of you have been in for like, 5 years or so. But when we're first starting out, that thought of saying no to money, like no to a client, is really scary, right? Because you're like, well, I don't know when I'm going to get my next client. So, I'm glad to hear it feels less soul sucking than the 60 hours. See, so you're doing the right thing. Because when you're doing stuff that you love to do, even working more, like if my old boss had said, I need you to work at 7 o'clock at night, I would have been like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. But to me, to come sit in the room and like give a presentation is not so bad. So that's good that you feel like that. But say, okay, let's take this example. I was just talking about this with a client the other day. She is a massage therapist and a PT. Okay. But she doesn't want to do massage anymore because it's very taxing on her body. But every time we talk, she hasn't taken the massage therapy people off her schedule because she's scared to take away that revenue source because she feels like it'll be this big fall off. But as soon as we finally convinced her to take those massage therapy people off the schedule, within 30 days, she had refilled all of those massage therapy spots with physical therapy patients. So you can't do the thing that you want to do unless you kind of live in a vacuum for a little bit. Right. And that's where I say, okay, if it's a money thing, how can we get you to feel comfortable? Like, where can we get you to a stage that you feel confident that if for 30 days you didn't have any of that extra income? Or I hear this all the time. I want to go cash base, but I'm still seeing insurance patients. Right. And it's why, because they don't want that gap in their schedule. So you don't have to rip the Band-Aid off all at once. You could say, I'm only going to see insurance patients on Fridays, or I'm only going to see insurance people on Tuesday and Thursday. And you don't have to tell them, oh, I only see insurance people on Tuesday and Thursday. You could just say, no, I don't. I'm full this week, right? I'm at my capacity. And then you can say, okay, now I'm only going to see insurance patients once a week, right? And then little by little, maybe it's 6 months, but then they're all off your schedule. Or Medicare patients, or whatever the case may be. And by the way, if you have a PT practice and you're seeing any type of insurance patients and you are on a wait list for your cash patients, you need to get those other people off your schedule. All right. And I know some people are like, well, they've been with me for like 20 years. Okay, that's great. You are an amazing human being, but somebody else can see them. You can create something else for them. Right. And by the way, if they've been with you for 20 years and you tell them that you're no longer, they would probably be happy for you. Like if you're no longer you're going to make this adjustment. So it doesn't mean we have to be obnoxious about it, but this is what's hard about being a business owner. Sometimes we have to make really, really hard decisions. All right. I think it was an author. I love reading, but I think Stephen King said one time, he said something like, you have to kill your darlings. And darlings, like if you're an author, I guess, are those catchy phrases that everybody loves, but nobody really understands. Only authors understand them, and they love them and love them and love them. But sometimes you just, if it's not resonating with your audience or it's not serving you, sometimes you just have to kill it. And it's really hard to do. I'm empathizing. I know it's hard to do. All right. So is anyone else interested in sharing what your revenue, what your salary, your income number is? Anyone else want to share? No? Well, you can come back to it later. Okay. So let me go back to sharing my screen here so we can get the okay, so this is the next thing. So now you have the first one. Oof, I'm so bad at this. Okay. The first one was you have to know where you're going. That was the first one. Like, how much do you want to earn? How much do you want to make? How much do you need to bring in? So you need to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. Okay. The next thing you need to know is who are you specifically helping? Now, how many of you, or you can raise your hand or type in the chat me, are fearful of niching down? Niching, I know. I was very scared of it for a while too. Yep. So, would you, yes, see, everyone's scared of niching down. Katie, would you be comfortable saying why you're scared of niching down? You can unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself, yeah.
Because I don't want to see shoulders every day, something like that.
Well, okay, so that's okay though. But that's a reason. Like, if you don't want to see shoulders, then that's a reason why you don't like. Then that's not a niche that you should be in. Okay, so if it's just like, I don't want to niche down to see shoulders because I will burn out seeing shoulders all day, that's an acceptable reason not to niche down. Okay.
Or I like diversity. Like, I like all ages. I like variety.
Yeah. So one of the things, so yeah, so most people, it's what Danielle said, is like, I'm worried about losing a revenue referral source, right? So most people, so for you, Katie, it could be you like so instead of, that's the other thing. So there's two things. Like Danielle said, some people are worried about losing money, but the same way that we spoke about getting the massage therapy people off of her schedule allowed her to now make up that money in a way that she wanted to work. For niching, we don't have to say like it's one specific shoulder, right? One specific body part. It's think of the type of person that you help. All right. So for Pilates in the Grove, the type of person that we help is a female that is between 40 and 65 that wants to be an active participant in their fitness, that's looking for quality over quantity and is looking to be part of a community. So like, do we see people of all ages? Yes, but is our target market those actual people? And one of the ways that we were able to figure out if we were on the right track was when we look at our numbers, when we do a skew of all of our data points, we can see that actually when we look at the numbers of people that have been into our studio, it actually skews young. It skews like 25 to 30. But then when we look at our retention of customers, that graph moves way over to the right, and it's people that are over 50. Okay, so that's the other thing about the importance of understanding your numbers, because that might mean that somebody young came in to see us. So we are attracting those people, but a couple of things happen. One, it was either out of their price point. It's a possibility. Two, maybe they got here and realized, yeah, I want more of like a younger vibe. That's fine. Maybe they did come for physical therapy and they only needed one session, so they came and left. Okay. That doesn't mean that if you want to do that in your business, that's not a viable option. But for us, getting people, our retention is like over 90%, which means we have to look for new people less and less and less. Okay, so Lori says, I'm only seeing public health clients, but I want to get even more niche postpartum moms. And yes, a lot. So you can even niche within a niche, right? We have a lot of pelvic health therapists on here. So within pelvic health, you can work specifically with like pain with sex. You could work with incontinence. You can do pre and postnatal. You could work with men. You could do, you know, like pudendal neuralgia is your specialty. Okay. But you can also say, I want to be all encompassing in women's health, but maybe I want to speak specifically to a group of women, right? That think a certain way or talk a certain way or have certain values. All right. So I really believe that one size fits none. I'm a big believer in like, so what did Samantha say? But feels tough currently is competition within a niche. Yeah. So here's what I'm going to, so we're going to work on now. We're going to talk about how to set yourself apart from the competition. All right. You know, there are many people that are working on in pelvic health. The other thing is you have to also remember that we also, all of us on this call understand what pelvic health is, right? But that doesn't mean the general population understands what that means. And that doesn't like, is it on my feed all the time? Yes, because I work with a lot of pelvic health businesses. So that is on my feed. So it makes it seem to me like it's mainstream, but I bet you if I went to my friend's Instagram feed, she would not have one single thing. I'm like embarrassed sometimes on the plane to scroll through my Instagram feed because it's got like dilators and like big vaginas coming up on Instagram next to someone who doesn't know who I am. But so, and yes, you're absolutely right, Chrissy, the whole scarcity mindset thing. There is a concept, I don't know if you guys know, the red ocean versus the blue ocean. So, you know, the red ocean is considered red because it's like where all the sharks are. And so like it's red because everyone's competing. But if you swim out past that, the ocean's blue and if you're easily seen. Okay. So there is a lot of mindset work that happens with this. And there's also, I mean, listen, if you think about it, there's 325 million Americans, half of whom are women. So what's that, like 160 something? Okay. Can you take 160 million women on your schedule? Negatory, right? So like you need what, 20 of those? That's like 0.00000% of the population. Okay, so if you look at it from that perspective and then figure out, which is what we're going to talk about, how can you get in front of those people? How can you get in front of those people is going to make your business easier, right? Because once you become the specialist for that specific region or area, people will seek you out. And sometimes all you need is one person to be a Raven fan and your schedule can be booked out. All right. So I think Marie Forleo was one that said, if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one, right? Hold on. There we go. Okay. So why is specialization important? Well, one, you can maximize your profit. Why? Because specialists on average make $48,000 to $50,000 more than generalists do if you're talking about a solopreneur because they can charge more. All right. It's efficient and effective as far as marketing goes. Sorry. Because your messaging is very specific. You don't have to talk about shoulders and elbows and hips and knees and all of that stuff. You can talk about pelvic health. Or for you, Katie, like you don't want to see shoulders all day, you can talk about the type of person that you work with. Maybe it's a teenage athlete. They have everything. Maybe it's a former collegiate athlete that's now like, holy crap, I can't believe that like it's really hard for me to get off the floor with my kids now. It could be, right? So it could be that. Just makes it efficient and effective for you. You're seen as experts, which allow you to charge more and people will seek you out. Customers always prefer to work with experts, especially now because there's so much decision. There's so many people out there. I mean, if you were going to a therapist right now and you had a pelvic health issue, wouldn't you rather go to a specialist, a pelvic health therapist? Like if I'm going to go see an orthopedic and it's my knee, I'm going to go see an orthopedic that specializes in my knee. So being the expert is going to help you attract customers. Okay. And specialization happens in every single industry, every single industry. And whether you talk about products, right? Whether you talk about services, so it happens in every industry. And again, you can change your mind. It's okay to say, you know what? I'm done seeing shoulders. I will never see a shoulder again. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. You can say one day, as soon as I discharge this last shoulder, I'm no longer taking shoulder patients. That is completely acceptable. All right. So you can change your mind. Do what works for you now. And if it changes 2 years later, you can change your mind. Why is this not moving? Oh, I like this quote. Be a flamingo in a flock of pigeons. Okay, so now let's just write down. This is a great exercise, and this is part of the framework that we teach in FitBiz Foundations, is this whole specialization framework, so you can get your messaging down right. So who are you specifically targeting? It could be, think demographic, which is what part. I mean, obviously most of you are brick and mortar businesses, right? So it would be someone in your area. How do they think, right? Those are psychographic. Like, how do they think? How do they feel? What is their age group? The other thing is, what is their level of sophistication? Meaning, are they price sensitive consumers? Are they, do they have a college degree, a postgraduate degree? What will they understand? What don't they understand? And the podcast that came out yesterday, actually, if you haven't listened to my podcast, it's Female Empowered, but it was all about market sophistication and understanding where your customer is in their journey. Like, do they know they even have a problem? Are they problem aware or problem unaware? By the way, plenty of people think that pain with sex is normal. Why? Because nobody talks about it. And if they do bring it up, what does their doctor say? Oh, have a glass of wine, do some meditation. Some people think like being incontinent when you're working out is normal. Oh, I just had a big baby. That's what happens. I mean, my OB, I kid you not, and he knows that I'm a physical therapist, told me that because my skin is so fair, that just is what happens to fair-skinned women. Like, with a straight face. And I really thought that he was like joking. He was going to be like, yeah, I'm just kidding. No, you know that. Yeah. He's like, oh yeah, my African-American patients don't have this problem. Honestly, some people, and I actually love him. I think he's great. But so think about these things, and what is it that you specifically do to help them? Okay. So here's the other part of the what. Now, all of us on this call could do things differently. How many ways are there to treat a back injury, an acute back injury? You could use acupuncture. You could have surgery. You could do myofascial release. You could have craniosacral therapy. You could do muscle energy techniques. You could do corrective exercises. You could be a McKenzie therapist. Like, you could be a yoga practitioner that works solely with backs. You could use Pilates. There's a variety of ways to do it, right? And could all of them work? Yeah, maybe. But what you want to do in the marketplace, and this is where we're going to go stand out from the competition, is you really want to sell your vehicle of transformation. So you want to sell that whatever it is that you do, and we're not talking about saying specifically that, I do myofascial release and the, 90-second, whatever, minute and 20-second stretch is what XYZ. Nobody understands that. What you have to say is, if CrossFit is your vehicle, you have to show testimonials of how CrossFit helped people, right? If yoga is your vehicle, you want to show testimonials and outcomes of how yoga helped someone with back pain. All right. And that's going to attract certain people to you. Margie asks, is it possible to have a general practice that has certain specialties? Yes, absolutely. Okay, so we have within the way that we run our practice. So I wouldn't say we're general, because we don't take everybody. Like we don't take neuro patients. We don't have parallel bars. We don't take people in wheelchairs. We don't take children, but we have a pelvic health practitioner on our staff. We have, like myself, I'm personally more of like a correctives. Like I love the analytical side of it. So I do a lot of assessments and evals, and then I do corrective stuff. And then I usually send them to other people. We have somebody that is a McKenzie therapist. We have somebody that does myofascial release. So yes, you can have that. But again, think about the person that you're trying to attract. So someone that wants one-on-one care, right? Someone that maybe, Margie, you know, you're mobile, like maybe it's somebody that wants the convenience of somebody going to them, right? That's what you're selling, less than the actual type of treatment you're doing. All right, so let's now get into, okay, so this is where those of you that were asking about competition, okay, we talk about I'm sure that you've heard maybe before stuff about the unique selling proposition, USP is what people call it. I call it like, what is your proven process? So what is it at your business or that you do that, well, maybe somebody else does it, but it's your proven process, right? So at Pilates in the Grove, let's talk physical therapy. So when people come in for physical therapy at Pilates in the Grove, we do a full-on assessment. We're highly educated, all of them, except for me, are doctors of physical therapy. And we really try to find, we say we weed through the noise to find the true source of the problem. Then we give them this program that's going to take them on a course of getting better. And we estimate that that's going to take like 3 to 4 visits. Then part of our process is they transition into our wellness packages, which is going to allow them to continue to maintain what they have and even continue to excel. Right. And I have this conversation with them at the very, very beginning of their eval, or anyone in my team has this conversation. So when you come to Pilates in the Grove, we are going to figure out what the true issue is. You will have, generally it's about 3 to 4 sessions, and then we will usually invite you to stay into our wellness packages. And why our wellness works is because you become part of our community. Our classes are taught by physical therapists for the most part. You can always jump back in to get a physical therapy session should you need it. And so that is our proven process. All right. So, and then the other thing you want to think about is what makes you specifically, because nobody, by the way, there can be like 50 million pelvic health therapists, which there are absolutely not, but nobody can beat you at being you. You are the secret sauce to your business. Okay. I'm not going to say that I never worry about competition, because I understand that you kind of have to stay ahead of trends and things of that nature, but I don't worry so much about people even copying my stuff and doing it, because nobody's me. Nobody, like I am the secret sauce that, you know, the way that we put together our business and our services and our offerings. And you know what, if they can do it, kudos to them. You know, but nobody can beat you at being you. So what is different about you that maybe your competition is not? Maybe it's that they are insurance-based, so they're seeing 4 patients an hour. Okay. Maybe it's that they are brick and mortar and you're mobile and you get to go to their home and be in private with them, and they're saving themselves time. Right. And if they're maybe a corporate person, time is money to them. So not only are they saving them time, but they don't have to take a 2-hour trek in the middle of the day. Okay. That could be it. Maybe it's you offer virtual sessions, so they don't even have to leave their house. What makes you specifically and your business different? And it shouldn't be price. Okay. It shouldn't be that you're less expensive. Because if you compete on price, you will always lose. Somebody will always be able to come in less expensive than you. Right. And have you ever, by the way, seen something that is really cheap and you're like, oh, I don't think I'd buy that, because that's like, I saw somebody like offering Botox with a Groupon, and I was like, I'm don't know that I would buy a Groupon to have somebody like shoot needles in my face. Like, I'm just wondering what's going on there. But there are some things that like are too inexpensive that I'm like, oh, they can't be worth, like, that's so discounted. I don't know. That's just my feeling, right? And that's, again, comes with understanding who your customer is. So if your customer is super price sensitive, those aren't the right customers for you. And it's very, very rarely, there are people that cannot afford things. I'm not talking about these. I'm not talking about that. And if you're in a cash-based facility or a, Pilates or yoga where the price point's a little higher, we shouldn't be going after those kind of people. But what we can do is offer pro bono work once a quarter. We can offer like free community classes. We can go do a day once a quarter, a couple times a year at a, a women's clinic. Okay, you can still give back. And especially if you say, listen, I want to earn $150,000 a year and I want to be able to give 3% back to some sort of charity, that's great. You can earn money, make a profit, and still do good in the world. They're not, like mutually exclusive. So this is actually a little sheet that we created in our business. So this is what our 3 uniques are in Pilates in the Grove. So one of them is education. All right. We assess and don't guess. So all of our therapists are board certified. Again, except for myself, they're all doctors of physical therapy. Then we have engagement because we're planning on what we're going to do. Okay. We explain this to them. Here's what we see. Here's what we're going to do. We guide them along the line. And usually what we say, if by like your 4th session, you're not feeling any different, we are going to either recommend you see somebody else, or we'll oftentimes even refund their 4th session. Okay. And then community, you join our family. And I truly believe that one of the reasons we were able to stay viable during COVID and shutdown is because we had such a strong community. And it's one of the reasons I don't really worry about attrition when staff members leave, because I think people come to Pilates in the Grove, not to one person specifically. All right. So developing something of like, what is unique about you and your business? Maybe it's inclusion. Maybe it's diversity. Maybe it's the way that you go to people. Maybe it's the type of way that you treat. Maybe it is a collaborative where they get to see, several different therapists throughout their treatment. But whatever it is, lean into that. And that way you will start to attract people that are specifically for you and are like, oh yeah, that is how I want to work. Okay. Pricing. I think we're on pricing. Yep. Okay. So this is always a big one. Do you, and you can either raise your hand or type in the chat, do you have a pricing process or strategy for your services? If yes, raise your hand or type yes in the chat, or if no, you can type no in the chat. This I talked about before. Never compete on price. You will always lose. Somebody will always be able to undercut you. And now, what is your mindset around money? So a lot of times, one of the things I see in like Facebook groups a lot is people going in there and saying, I want to charge this. What do you think? But unless those people are your target audience, like, it doesn't matter what they think. We should only ask people that are in our target audience. And by the way, I usually don't ask my clients about pricing, because they're always going to say it's too expensive. Everybody always would love to have a deal, right? What I ask them a roundabout ways. I ask them things like, how, on a scale of 1 to 5, how happy are you with your services, with our services? 5. On a scale of 1 to 5, how much value do you think we provide? Right. So now they're saying, so instead of saying price, I just say, I think of things like, are we meeting their goals? Are we providing a great service? And are we providing good value? Okay. The other thing is, how many of you feel that if somebody gives you their money, they will never get that money back, and you're taking from their limited pot of money? If you feel this way, then either raise your hand or you can type it yes in the chat. All right. Business is not a zero-sum game. It really is not. I had to do a lot of work around this because I was raised in a situation where I thought money was finite. So once you gave it away, you never got it back. So it's really hard to operate a business when you feel that you asking people for money is taking from them. But just because they give you some of theirs doesn't mean that they can't replenish their, piece of the pie. They can have more. There is more where that came from. So that is something really, really, really important to work on around money. Now, one of the things that really helped me with this too was investing in myself. The more that I went to courses and conferences and got business help and became a better therapist, the more I was able to just say, yeah, it costs, it costs $200 to see me, and I disassociated myself from the outcome. Meaning if they said no, it was either two things. One, I didn't articulate the value enough for them. Or two, that maybe they're just thinking right now is not the right time for me. That's okay. All right. Now, I know people, a lot of times the pushback I get is, well, you can do that because your schedule is full. Yes, I understand that. I 100% understand that. Did I start my business like this? Absolutely not. No. I used to give away so much free crap. I was I hated having, asking people, even if my friends come in, I was like, oh, it would be somebody I saw 5 years ago. And I'm like, oh, you can come for free. First of all, if your friends are your friends, they should never expect to give you them something for free, because they should want you to succeed in your business. Now you can choose to give them something, but I'm saying as if they're really your friends, they should never expect it. Now let's talk about free for a minute. I don't mind doing pro bono work or giving work away for free if there is some boundary around that. Do I do speaking engagements sometimes for free? Absolutely. Why? Because if I'm going to be able to get in a room in front of my ideal customers, I will do that. This training is free. All right. But I also love to teach. So I do free workshops at my studio all the time. Why? Because I don't believe in hoarding information. If I have information that can help somebody else, I believe it's my duty to give that information away. All right. So I have a ton of free resources for people to learn, a ton. And then I have resources that people pay to utilize. All right. So the idea that if you give it away for free, nobody will pay you, that's actually not true. But the other thing is you can give stuff away for free sometimes, which makes you feel good about yourself. But it also allows you to, one, practice. So sometimes if what you're trying to do right now is, I just need some clients because I just need to practice to get some testimonials, work on people for free. It's basically like an investment. So if you think about it like this, if you're a solopreneur and you technically, let's just say for even money's sake, you charge $100 an hour, and you're going to give away 10 free sessions to people so that they can now give you a testimonial or tell people about it or create social proof or create content for social media. Basically what you're doing is you're just trading time instead of money. So you're taking $1,000 like you could have generated if they paid you, and you're investing $1,000 into marketing basically. So if you think about it from that perspective, that's a way to look at it. Be like, oh, well, I'm just actually, but you're not paying for it. You're just paying for it with your time. But you want to have really clear boundaries around that. Meaning, what do you expect for this free service? And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I'm really trying to grow my client base. I would love to offer you a session for free in return for your testimonial. What do you think? Or I'm trying to learn this new skill set. We all had to do, all of us, whether you're Pilates trained, yoga trained, PT, we all had to do free work when we were learning. right? We all had to do that. So it's the same thing. If you're trying to get clients, I'm not saying do it forever, and I'm not saying doing a ton of it, but if you need to get something like in your portfolio, you need to get the word out, you need to get practice, make sure that the people you are giving it to are also people that can tell other people or are your right audience. Does that make sense? Good. Okay. So usually I say to people, you know, you have the right price when customers might complain about it, but they'll buy anyways. And if your customers are seem to only care about price, maybe it's because you haven't given them anything else to care about. And that's exactly where we are in our business. Do they maybe talk about price once in a while? We just raised our prices in February. We didn't get one pushback, not one single complaint. Or my managers are really amazing and they didn't tell me that we got any complaints, which is another thing about the beauty of growing a team. Okay, so if you give them value, if you articulate how good you're doing, that you can get them better in 3 sessions versus going to a non-specialist that's going to take 7 or 8, they're going to save themselves time and money. If they really want like true, pure Pilates, coming to you is going to give them way more of a leg up than going to a Legree studio that doesn't look at like form. Okay, so you have to give them other things to care about besides money. If it's money, as soon as a cheaper option comes around, they're just going to leave. Okay, so, oops, that's weird. Okay, so there's a couple things about price that are important to know when determining your price. One, we talked about this earlier, price sensitivity. How sensitive is your target audience to price fluctuations and cost of things? If you are charging $150 for something and your people are hourly employees that are making $12 an hour, that's not the right demographic for you. Okay, so you want to be in front of the people that can afford to pay your prices. And like I said, if you still want to do work to be able to help the community, you can do pro bono work, but I don't believe in being in the commodity market where things are just really inexpensive, because most of you will still over deliver. Even when I tell some people to maybe consider going to 30-minute sessions for insurance-based patients, they still say, well, I can't do it. I have to give them like the best care. So if you're going to give them the best care, then, by the way, one of my coaches said this to me, and this was like a real eye-opener. You have to work just as hard to get someone to pay you $50 as you do to get someone to pay you $100. So why not just go after the $100 client? The marketing is the same. The messaging is the same. And by the way, the $50 client usually has more complaints. The lower the price point, the higher the need for, like, you know, they're not sure of themselves and they usually want refunds. Okay, so price sensitivity then leads into market sophistication. That means, how knowledgeable is your customer about the service that you're offering? So if you're just talking about, oh, I do this at $100 an hour, or we provide this type of Pilates, but they have no idea that they need Pilates, or they have no idea that someone coming to their house for therapy is even an option, you're totally not going to resonate with them. Okay, so for more on that, I really encourage you to listen to the podcast from yesterday on market sophistication. Price anchoring. This is a pricing strategy. That's a really powerful pricing strategy. So what price anchoring basically is you choose a price, and we call that the anchor. Okay, now the anchor can either be very high or very low or in the middle. So for example, we do this with price anchoring. We have an unlimited Pilates package. No, hold on. We have a Pilates membership, a membership that's recurring auto payment, that they get 13 classes a month for $349. Okay. Our unlimited membership, that's 30 plus classes a month, is $399. Okay, so the anchor is the $349. And then people are like, oh, for $50 more, I can get 3 times the amount of classes. I'll just do 50 times the $399. But that doesn't mean they're going to come 30 times a month. Some of them maybe will, but the majority of them will only do like 3 or 4 additional classes, in which case the price point pays for itself. Okay. The other thing is value add-ons. Now, one of the mistakes people made, and I make this a lot sometimes, is I just start adding a bunch of stuff for free. Oh, and I'll do a free coaching call with you. Oh, and I'll do this for you. Oh, and we'll do like a follow-up telehealth session with you. All of those things cost your time. So what I recommend with value adds are things that don't cost you any additional money. If you have an on-demand platform, that on-demand platform is going to run whether you have 10 people that are subscribing or 100 people are subscribing. So if someone's doing a membership, maybe you say, if you join the membership, you get on demand for free, right? For Pilates, for example, we need grip socks. We're a sock studio, so we have people that use socks. So if you join our membership, you get a free pair of socks every month. It costs us $5 wholesale. Okay, but they pay like 20. So that's a value add, right? We also do a value add where if for people that are in that unlimited membership, if they can't come to a class, but they want to send somebody else in their place, they can send somebody else in their place. So that's like, I don't care if they paid for the session, as long as someone comes and uses that spot. Or same thing with a private, right? So if they can't come, rather than lose the class or get charged a cancellation fee, they can send someone else in their place. So all of these little things are value adds. Maybe you have a live streaming class once a week that they get access to for free. Maybe you have a video library of a bunch of home exercises that they can have. Maybe you have an ebook of, nutritional value add-on that they get if they, sign up for a membership. What the value adds are, you're always trying to get the value adds, again, not to use your time, but you're getting the value adds to drive people towards the purchase you want them to make. Okay, so that means like if you want them to go into memberships, which I love because it's recurring revenue and you don't have to think about it, add value adds onto that. So our group class packages are more expensive. But what we say to people is, for me, for example, I don't love memberships because my schedule changes so much. I don't know that I'm going to get 8 classes in a month, right? So I would prefer to pay a higher price point for a package that I know doesn't expire or gives me a longer period of time to use it. So the people that buy our packages, they are okay with that because they're paying for the convenience of not having to be on a deadline. And that's how you explain it. Okay, so next exercise. So we are going to do a little pricing exercise. Okay, so on your piece of paper, write down the number of how much you want to bring in 2022. What's that total revenue number? Okay, so now, how many weeks this year do you want to work? Please, nobody say 52. 50, 49, 48, 46, 45. Okay, so take that number and divide it by the number of weeks you want to work. Okay, so now we have another number, right? Now divide that number by how many hours you want to work in a week. And by work, I mean see clients. So if you say 40 and you still have to run your business, you're probably going to be working 50 or 60 hours a week. So if you're like, I really max out at 20 clients a week, 10 clients a week, 15, 25, whatever it is, divide it by that number. And now you get the number. That final number is the minimum of what you should charge. The minimum. So let's say somebody wants to bring in $150,000 a year. Okay. Now I'm not talking about expenses right now, but we can add that in. But say you want to generate $150,000 a year and you want to work 48 weeks. Okay. And then you only want to see 20 client visits or 20 classes a week. You have to charge at a minimum 156. So that means that if you have a package of 10 sessions should be 1560, 1560, and your single sessions should be higher than that. Does that make sense? Okay, does that make sense to you? Yeah. Okay. If so, don't start at 156 and then go like, oh, my package of 10 though is going to be 140. Okay. Now, if you're an appointment-based, a class-based business model, right? Like Gretchen, some other people in here have class bases. Then just say 156 divided by, let's say you have 5 people in a class. That means everybody should be paying about $31 per class if you can get your classes full. So this is kind of just, it's just a raw rubric to see if you're even in the ballpark of being able to hit your number. So Katie, did you have a question? Oh, we have 2 Katies on here. Katie, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. Ostrop? You're good? Okay. So I hope that makes sense for some of you. So like, and by the way, if you're thinking, excuse me, now if you have like expenses, because most of us are brick and mortar, and say that you want to take home 150,000 and your monthly expenses, your annual expenses are 50,000, then what you have to bring in is 200,000. Okay. So you just have to mess around with that number. But if you're way out of the ballpark and you're like, oh, I want to generate $100,000 this year, but you're charging $50 a session, like the numbers don't add up. They won't add up. All right. And there is nothing wrong with, I know plenty of people that charge $300, $350 an hour. And guess what? They have to see a lot less people. So they only have to market to, instead of seeing 30 people, they can see 10 a week and hit their revenue goal. I don't expect people to come out of the, gate like that. If you're a new grad or new in business, there are some things, we kind of have to learn as we grow. But if you've created a skill set that you can get people the results that they are looking for, then your price point can reflect that. And you can change your price point. You can change. You can start out in January for a one-on-one session at $90 a session. And in March, you can change it to $100 a session. And then in July, you can change it to $150 a session, especially if you're in a model where you're discharging people and new people are coming in. So like you can change your pricing for new people whenever you want. And a lot of that is your personal relationship with money. Like you feel bad asking people for this amount of money because you think, one, it could be if you couldn't afford that, then you put your own personal feelings into their decision-making, right? And 2, you're like, who am I to charge this? How many of you were told as a child, be quiet, work hard, just work hard. Hard work is what you have to work hard to be successful. Yeah, I see a lot of nodding. I was the same. You have to work hard to be successful. So what happens to some of us is that if money comes easy to us, if we say like, oh, it's $150 and our client's like, okay, innately we're like, that was too easy. Something is wrong. I'm going to break my business now because I have to do something all over again because it didn't seem hard enough for me. Work does not have to be hard. It has to be intentional. And there are seasons when it's hard. I mean, I'm not going to lie, but I'm going to tell you 2020 and 2021 were hard years. But the other thing I started thinking was it is completely out of my control. I'm going to only focus on the things that I can focus on and I can control the outcome, and everything else I'm not going to worry about. Okay. So that's, business does not, success is not mutually exclusive with hard work. Okay. You can work hard at certain times, but then you should be able to coast, right? Marathons are not always run uphill. Triathlons are not always uphill. They are, at some point, they go down. Okay. At some point, you are allowed to coast in your business. And if you're not at that point and you've been in business for 4 or 5, 6 years, like, I would start to look at, what am I doing as a business owner? And that's what I did. What am I doing to create this system? It's usually something that we are doing as business owners. We are the bottleneck and the reason that things are so hard. My teenager one time said something to me. I was trying to get his license. We were trying to make appointments. I was like, oh, you have to do this and this. And he looks at me and goes, Mom, why are you making it so complicated? It doesn't have to be that complicated. Just make an appointment. And I was like, you're right. Like, we don't have to make business so complicated. Okay. There are certain things that take a little bit of learning, and it's only because it's the first time we learned how to do it. When kids learn to walk, they fall a shitload of times. But they don't think in their head, oh, now I got to put the other foot in front of me. Oh, no, they just get up and do it again. They don't care that they fall. So one of the biggest things that can help you with this is to separate yourself from the outcome. Okay. So let me just say this for an example. I love people doing like free workshops, or like, people have talked to us about this all the time. Like, hey, I got this opportunity to come speak at a CrossFit gym, or come speak at a teen, sports facility or something like that. Now they're like, well, how can I figure out how many clients can I get in this? And I'm like, you know what? Only focus on your talk. That's it. Go in, give a talk that is really great, that leads them to want to say, like, how can I work with you? But do not think at all about the outcome. And so success would be great if you got a bunch of people from that, but it could also be, you know what? I made a connection today. Somebody came up to me afterwards and said, thank you very much. And that's what you should focus on. I made a concerted effort. I believe it was in 2021, and it was really hard for me, not to think about the revenue at all. Not to think about, okay, well, if we do this, we're going to get this much. And if we do this, I should charge this. I only thought about serving. So like, for example, for like the consulting and coaching business I only thought about like teaching free webinars. That was it. Or getting on discovery calls. And I didn't think at all about anything else. And it made selling and being authentic like so much easier for me. I'm not going to say that was super. There were times where I was like, and I'd find myself going back into the money situation, and I would just be like, nope. Okay, that's an outcome, but I'm not going to be attached to that outcome. So Katie, you asked, is this business revenue or personal revenue? So I was just talking about business for that exercise, but if you want to say, I want my salary to be $150,000, then you just add your expenses on top of that. And that's what you'd have to bring in. Okay. And again, for you specifically, you have a team member, right? So they're generating revenue for you also. So like, it could, maybe you say, so what I do, because I have a team also, before taxes, Margie, I estimate before taxes, but I usually take out taxes like right away, but I usually will say before taxes. Okay. You can also do after taxes. Depending on what state you're in, taxes are, higher or lower. But so for example, Katie, what I look at my revenue producing staff members, that means my Pilates instructors and physical therapists, I estimate that they will all work 48 weeks a year, even though they don't get 4 weeks off of vacation, but sick days, or they have a holiday, or there's a hurricane here. So I guesstimate that what they have to bring in off of a 48-week year. And that's how I roll that into the overall, like our overall revenue number. All right. So the last thing here not about pricing, is the last thing that you guys need is really just the commitment to keep going. I'm going to kind of like pull back the curtain here. I think some people think incorrectly that a lot of people are overnight successes. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. Okay. I started my first business working full time at my physical therapy office. I started my first Pilates studio. It took me 7 years, 3 years before I opened the second location. The first year I opened the second location, we generated $55,000 in year one. Okay. 3 years after that, we opened our third location. But in that interim, I had a partnership dissolution. So I sold one business. I opened up a micro location that was a total flop and cost me like $100,000. All right. I had one employee try to sue me. So there is a lot of work. We hit the 7-figure mark probably in 2016, but at that time, I was a complete disaster. I was miserable. Okay, because I wasn't asking for help. Why? Because I thought people that know what they're doing don't need help. All right. So I never asked for help in physical therapy school. I never asked for help doing anything. Even if a person would open the door for me, I'd be like, no, I got it. Right. But it takes you a lot longer to do that. And by the way, asking for help doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're actually very strong and you realize that your strengths, you can't do it all. I'm here to tell you, you cannot do it all. You should not do it all. You are not skilled to do it all. And as we start to grow and as we start to grow a team, you should hire for your weaknesses. Okay. For a long time, I just hired a bunch of little mini-me's. And then there was just a lot of bickering and infighting because everyone was just like me. Right. You need to hire for your weaknesses. You don't need to change your weaknesses. You don't need to change them. You don't need to buy courses on getting better at it. You need to just say, I recognize, one of the things I did, I recognize that I'm not a good manager. I'm not great at leading other people. I'm very I like things the way that I like them. I just do things. I'm one of those people that's like, in PT school, like if I was done with an exam, I got up and turned my test in. Like I was just done. I didn't think I knew, so I hired then somebody to be a manager because I wasn't good at it. So instead of trying to be more patient and be better at listening and all this stuff, I just said someone else is going to take that role on. And guess what? The staff is happier. I'm happier. The other person's happier because they're working in their skill set, right? So it's also, you have to be able to accept failure. You will make mistakes. Not maybe, you will 100% make mistakes. You will make mistakes that sometimes are costly. And sometimes you'll make mistakes that are like, that didn't work out. Let's just move on. Okay. Failure is an action. It's not an identity. All right. And I think a lot of us, we put so much time and energy into our training that we're like, we have to succeed. We have to do this the right way. All right. But it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight unless you're a TikTok sensation whose video goes viral. Like that's right. So you have to be able to accept failure and you have to be patient. Okay. My business where I am right now is like 12 years in the making. And there's been a lot of mistakes and missteps and money that I've lost and energy that I've lost, but you just keep going. You have to be resilient in this business and you have to just be like, okay, that didn't work. What didn't work? What could I do better next time? What am I doing that's making this business seem hard? All right. So the last thing I just want to, I love this quote too. The degree to which one will grow and succeed is directly proportional to your ability to entertain the uncomfortable. If you are not good with being uncomfortable, business ownership ain't for you, my friend. Or you're just going to butt your head against the wall all the time because there's a lot of stuff that's just uncomfortable about having uncomfortable conversations, right? And asking for help is a sign of strength. So in that regard, what I really want to chat with, I'm just going to briefly let you guys know about our FitBiz Foundations program. I'm not going into like a huge, crazy sales pitch. And then we're going to get to some Q&A. But I want you to know that what basically, so I have a signature offer that's called FitBiz Foundations. And the way that it came about was I participated in a business mentorship program that was called the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's based off of the book called Traction, and it helped change the inner structure and outer feeling of my business. So at the time that I entered this program, I was literally doing every single thing myself in my business. I was still teaching, I was treating, I was cleaning the toilets, I was taking emails, I was up all hours of the night. I was worried about every last cancellation. I was making myself crazy plus my team crazy. So I invested in this program. It was pretty pricey. It was like $65,000, but I was able to get a state grant for it, which a lot of people don't know. I applied for a state grant and they paid for like 85% of it because as a women-owned business, I was able to look for funding. So there are ways that you can get funding for this. What I took from that business training was I basically took it and put it into a container that helps small, what I say, like emerging businesses that are growing to the six-figure mark to, up to like $200,000, $250,000. And so what it basically is, it teaches you how to really get your messaging right, how to create a foundation for which to grow. So like, imagine if we're PTs or even Pilates and yoga instructors, and someone's going to go in and have a total knee replacement. Do you tell them, oh, don't bother doing anything before because you're just going to like mess it all up in the surgery? No, you're like, hey, we can work. The stronger you go into the surgery, the stronger you're going to come out, right? So the better, so even if you're a new business owner, the better you go into the business with strong foundations, the better you're going to come out, right? And learning how to be seen as an expert, learning how to position yourself as an expert, and what it is not, though, well, it's perfect for like if you're less than 5 years in business or you're comfortable, like you want to grow to like, less than $500,000 in revenue, you're a solopreneur, you're still growing, and you want to get ahead of the step, you want to get a step ahead of the competition. Okay. This program basically teaches you how to take away the guessing so that you don't feel overwhelmed. The reason we feel stressed and overwhelmed so much is we're doing a bunch of crap that we shouldn't be doing and doesn't light us up. That's why by the time we get to stuff we love, we feel burnt out. All right. And this again, if you don't have a strong foundation, you get distracted by shiny objects all the time. So this program, it's like 10 modules. I'm not going to go into all of this stuff. But I'll tell you what it's not, okay? It's not a DIY program. It's not another course that people buy that they don't get any guidance on, that you won't finish. And you're like, I have no idea how this is helping me, all right? It comes with a little bit of a kick in the pants because sometimes the reason we don't take action is because we have all of these underlying reasons or fears or myths about why we don't want to do something. And so sometimes it's me shooting from the hip a little bit and saying like, you either need to stop complaining about this in your business or you need to make the choice to change it, one or the other, right? But it also has a great community of women. And just the other day we had someone in the group that was asking just about liability insurance. She's going back into the brick and mortar and everyone gave her the advice to go with CM&F instead of HPSO, and it saved her like $400 from like one little type in the Facebook group. So again, a little type versus hours of Googling is a great, great, great thing. And the community is great. It's small and intimate, but it's big enough to get it's like large enough to get a lot of different opinions, but small enough that you don't feel like a number. I hate being in a group of 300, 400 people, and I feel like I'm not getting any of my questions answered. So as of right now, we have 5 available spots open. Okay. You can check out more at kristagurka.com/fitbizfoundations. You can also click, I'm going to drop this in the chat. Let me just drop this in the chat. All right. On the application, it gives you an option that if you want to book a discovery call, you can book a free discovery call with me to see if that's something that you're interested in, or it gives you the option to kind of just go ahead and jump into the group. We have payment plans. You can do $199 a month for 12 months, or it's $1997 paid in full. All right. So I paid $65,000 and we're giving it away for $2,000. But the community is also great. There's a couple people that are on this call that have either taken it or are in the program right now. It's a great group of women, and I love teaching. You get a lot. You get 2 coaching calls a month. You get 3 one-on-one calls when you start the program. And then when you're done with the program, if you want to stay in, it's a month-to-month option for a membership after that. So I'm not going to, the other thing is, if anyone's interested, you can definitely check out the Female Empowered podcast, because that's where all my free content comes from. I do a lot of stuff on there, and on Instagram, you can follow me at Krista Gurka. If you want to just do a one-off, I do one-off coaching calls, and you can also find that on my website if you're interested in just booking a one-on-one session with me. All right. If anyone is interested in signing up for the program, if you commit by Friday, you get $199 off of the program. So that's either $199 off your first payment or $199 off if you pay in full. So, but that will go away. I'm being true to my word this time. It's going away Friday at midnight. So that means if you think you want this, complete the application. And if you want a discovery call with me, you got to jump on one tomorrow. I opened up a bunch of time tomorrow and Friday for people to jump on calls, because I'm turning off that promo code Friday at midnight. And then I'm going to open it up. You guys can unmute yourself if you want. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for any questions. You can ask me questions about the program. You can ask me questions about what we talked about. So I'll go ahead and you guys can unmute yourself, or how about, let's do this. If you have a question, why don't you raise your hands, and then I'll just call on people to unmute themselves as I see people's hands going up. So you can raise your hand. There's a little at the bottom where you put on reactions. If you hit reaction, I'll say raise hand, and then I'll just call on you. No questions? Oh my goodness. I'm so prepared for questions. All right. This was easy. No questions again. So, I hope you guys took away, one of the things I wanted people to know is just that you got to start getting clients. Okay. In order to have a business, you need to be paid for your services. If not, you have a hobby, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm in business to make money. So the best way to get clients is just to think about things like this. Who are you targeting? Very specifically. Okay. You can go on Instagram tonight. You can do it tonight. You can do a story and you can say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I am going to be giving I have 3 sessions that just opened up on my schedule this week. DM me if you're interested. You could do something very simple like that. You could do it on your story. You could set a reminder to go on your story every month and do it like that way. Okay. Sarah, or Katie, you had a question. Katie O. Oh, you have to unmute yourself. There you are.
Sorry.
That's
2
okay.
years into Zoom and then I just didn't do. You might have already mentioned this, but I've kind of been in and out trying to do some things at home. This is pre-recorded. Are we able to access it again, or this is just okay?
Nope. So you guys will get the replay with the slides also. Okay,
great.
Yeah.
And then I missed all the details about the package that you're selling, but I can just check that out on your website then, right?
Yep.
She's sleeping. Okay, because I'll have to look back on that at my own time.
Yeah,
which doesn't exist. Okay.
I hear you.
Okay.
I threatened my teenager. I'm in my teenager's room right now, like with his setup, and I threatened him that with like death if he comes in here and makes a ruckus. So, yeah, you can find everything out, Katie, on kristagurka.com. And it will probably take.
Thank you so much.
No, it's my pleasure. It'll probably take a little bit just to get the recording done, but we'll send out a link that has the recording, and I might not make it so fancy. I might just like send you the replay with the slide deck. I might just do that like tomorrow morning. I'll probably do that. I don't need to make it fancy. See, the things we make work more complicated for ourselves. We don't need to do that. So Marjorie, what's your question? You think you have a question? You have to unmute yourself too.
Thanks. I think I do, but I'm not sure. And I think this also could be something we dive into in one of our calls, but going like the idea of like, okay, the 5 things to do to get to the 6 figures. I feel like I have so many things. So it's like I know what I want to make and I know how much I want to work, which means I have to delegate out a lot of this. You know, I have a lot of contract workers and stuff. So I have to add that in. But I'm kind of at this thing. It's like, okay, well, do I hire more contract workers? Because contract workers really only want to work like 2 visits a week, whereas I have 2 potential part-time employees, but I don't know what that entails. And then it's like, well, I don't know if I have a caseload enough built up to hire part-time, so I don't know what to do. It's like, well, do I find a referral source and get my referrals first and then get maxed out on waiting lists and then hire, or do I hire and slowly build up? And then the other thing is we are the bottleneck and nobody has what we have. And my accountant told me this before. He's like, you are your business. People are coming to you because of you, not in word of mouth. They hear about Marjorie. They don't want Katie or Sarah. And it's like, sure, you, but I want them to want Katie and Sarah, and you can't teach a personality. And I feel like when I first started hiring contractors, I was hiring warm bodies, people who knew what they were doing. They're therapists, they're educated, but I realized not all of them will bend over backwards for people because it's not their business. And one of them really wasn't very nice. And so we dissolved
I
that.
mean, first of all, there's 2 things there that they will go to you as long as you continue to set up the practice that way. Okay. So that is where understanding what your proven process is right now. Like people come into Pilates in the Grove now, they don't even know that I'm the owner. They have no idea who I am. Okay. Now that didn't start like that. It grew like that, but I made very intentional decisions to take people that had been working with me for 10 years and say, I'm no longer seeing patients. Right? You're going to be very good with this person. So that's one thing. And your business is not your name anyways. Your business technically doesn't even have your name on it.
Right.
But you can say your proven process is that you evaluate everyone, but you don't do the treatments. So what you have to work on is you have to work down on slimming down your offers because you are a little bit all over the place. Okay. Which is how a lot of us are all over the place. So, and why? Because we're visionaries. That's what we are. That's why we're the entrepreneurs. That's why we sit at the top, right? Because we have all these ideas and we want to do all these things. And that's why we started our own business, right? But that does not lead to success. It just leads to burnout and that hamster wheel feeling of like, I'm going a mile an hour, 30 miles over and over and over, and I can't get off the treadmill. So one is to go all in on one thing at a time. Okay. So if it's, and this again, we can talk about this on one of our calls, like what is the one thing that you are going to focus on for the next 3 to 6 months? And that will then lead into the next thing. And then that will, because I don't recommend you start hiring until you have your systems right, because then you're going to just bring in people to a broken system and you're going to have the same problem. So sometimes you may even have to say, I need to slow business down a little bit so that I can get these systems right and then bring in the right people to work in the systems. Okay. Systems run your business and people run the systems. So, and I don't love having contractors that are only like one, or if I do have them, that's not like the bulk of my business. That's like, 1 or 2 offshoots, but the majority of my people work 10 to 15 hours or more in the business. Cause I just don't think you get good buy-in if you have people that are only working 1 or 2 hours for you.
Right.
Yeah. So, but definitely on the next call, we can talk about that too. Like, let's just really streamline. And every time something else comes in, you're like, nope, that's not what I'm doing this month. It might be, unless it's Tony Robbins coming to ask you to talk on his stage, like everything else is a no.
Okay. Well, and then also and we'll talk about this, just put it on your radar about investing in my employees. So if I have an idea, I want 2 part-time employees, I think, by late spring, but then when they're employees, you can invest in them and things like that. But then I know we talked about this before, but it's like this fear of if I invest in people to make them better and then they leave me and I'm like, well, crap, I got to start all over. And now it's all on me again.
Yeah.
And then you got to restart that wheel. So how do you retain employee retention, basically?
Yeah. I mean, but you have to think about it. What if you don't train them and they stay and then they suck? Now that's a reflection on you and your business.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's true.
So you know what? Here's the way that you have to think about it. You cannot control what anyone else does. We can't control our kids. We can't control our families. We can't control our clients. We can't control our employees. Even our patients, right? We can say to them, I can't fix your herniated disc. What I can do is give that damaged disc the best area in which to live in so that you have as little amount of pain and you can live as optimally as possible, right? So it's the same feeling I have for my employees. I cannot control if they decide they want to do something else, but I am going to provide an environment for which they feel empowered, they feel heard, they feel listened to, they're making good money. Now, are there some things that it is work? So sometimes they're maybe not always happy with things, but they're in a position where they don't want to go anywhere else. They're happy with what they do. And this, again, when people are like, oh, this person wants to go out and, start their own business. Well, so did we. Like, we all work for somebody at some point, and then we all left and started our own business. So, the way that I look at it now is I'm like, if I do that, if somebody leaves and, I had a small part in their journey and I was a piece of that. Now we have contracts in place to protect us from non-solicitations and non-disclosures. And my managers have non-competes in their contract for a very limited period of time. But again, I can't stop anybody from leaving. So the way that I look at it is I'm like, I'm going to do what's best for the company, and making you the best employee possible is what's good for the company. And then the hope is that they just eventually stay. But people leave. Listen, people leave. We just have to have, they're not leaving you. They're just moving on to another experience. And you know what? That's where having like people that are ready to step up in the next time, like, okay, this person's ready to step up and take a full-time role. I mean, we've all had people leave. We've all had people leave.
Right. So I guess it's like changing my mindset, because I thought about like going to take a dry needling course to learn dry needling. And my husband's like, why don't you pay for one of like your future employees to do it? And I was like, well, what if I pay for her to do it and then she leaves? He's like, well, I'm pretty sure you can figure out a way to
Well, first of all, you can have a repayment agreement. We have repayment agreements with everyone that you can, it's actually probably in the Facebook group, in the portal of like the agreements. Yeah, you have a time agreement.
I'll check that out.
We pay people to get their Pilates certification. And if they leave within a certain period of time, they have to pay it back. And I'm very clear with them. And it's also where if you get your core values, what it is that you're doing, where it is you want to go, be very clear. You can set very clear expectations. I tell people right from the beginning, it takes 12 to 18 months to get you to train to be a Pilates instructor or physical therapist at this position. If you think you're not going to stay in Miami or you're not going to stay at this job for at least 12 to 18 months, please do not accept the role. I would rather go without that staff member for a period of time, except because especially with our types of businesses, we are really training them to be like, like how we want to run our business. It takes a long time. So if you're just in it for like, hey, I'm just here to like get a paycheck for the next 3 months, I really say like, please do not accept this role. We are really looking for people that are looking to stay in a company 18 months or more.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. So I like that. All right, we'll brainstorm on that.
Yeah. Any other questions? You guys are great. Well, thank you all for coming. If you have any follow-up questions, you can reply to that email. All right. Bye, ladies. Have a great, great night. Take care.